There we go. Damien, it got hot today. It's like 71 degrees Fahrenheit in our offices right now. It had been really, really cold.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you exactly?
Are you familiar where Arkansas is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the upper extreme northwest corner of Arkansas. Yeah. And so we're right up against Oklahoma and Missouri. And yeah. You can be in Oklahoma, I don't know, half an hour or something, 45 minutes. In Missouri, you can be there in about 30 minutes from where we are. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's nice. If you're ever in the States, you should come by and I'll show you around. I'm sharing this to some groups here. Are there any groups you belong to in particular on Facebook?
I suppose the main one really is the Astronomy Planetary Imaging Group. That's probably the most active one.
Uh-huh. There are so many astrophotography groups these days.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. It's good though. You know, lots of different outlets for people to, you know, find the kind of group that they like the best. There's the Royal Observatory Astrophotography Group. We're sharing to them. Astrophotography enthusiasts. Photo astronomisch. Okay. Yesterday during our global star party, we had DT Gautam from Nepal on, and we could hear elephants in the background. Elephants trumpeting.
Wow.
We're like in the chat going, was that an elephant we just heard? I didn't know if it was or not. And other people were like going, yep, that was an elephant. And after thinking about it, that's exactly what it sounded like. I was not aware that Nepal has as many elephants as they do. Actually, they have quite a few.
Yeah, interesting.
They have like 4 different regions in the country with, you know, large populations of elephants. But Europe and the United States are relatively, and Canada, you know, relatively quiet countries, you know. You go to some other countries and the streets are noisy.
Yeah, that's very
Microphones,
true.
music,
Yeah,
fireworks, just part of the normal day.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's quite a placid lifestyle, isn't it? And
yeah, yes,
that we have really compared to
yes.
some places.
Some people think it's boring. So,
Yeah.
mhm. There we go. Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts here with the Explore Alliance presents Explore Now with, it's another afternoon with Damian Peach. And we were rudely interrupted by a failure in technology where the internet decided to take a
Yes.
hiccup. But I was telling Damian that last night during the Global Star Party, I was just really lucky because I had a complete power failure here in my office. And for 2 terrifying minutes here, I'm trying to figure out how to get back on and stuff because I'd already started the program. And lo and behold, Zoom, which is the platform we get on, was holding the stream. And so everybody else is still on, just waiting for me to get back on. So that worked out okay. So I'll give yet another big shout out for the Zoom platform. So, but I think when we left off last time, Damien, we were going through some of your iconic planetary images, and
Yeah,
we were describing. I believe we were into looking at some of the storms on Jupiter. Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Jupiter is obviously an object that I've always had a passion for throughout my career, and I've spent a great deal of time and photographing it over the years. And it probably remains for me the primary object of my interest when it comes to planetary observing and imaging.
Right. So is there like one image that you just love, maybe something you got hanging on your wall or something? Or...
I think with something like, I mean, with Jupiter in particular, because it's kind of changing from year to year,
Yeah.
and sometimes those changes can be really dramatic. So it kind of varies. There are certainly images that I prefer, or that I find maybe kind of more, you know, aesthetically pleasing than others. But would I say I have like an overall favorite? No, not really.
Not really. Oh yeah.
Not really.
So you really enjoy the change and the kind of ever
Yeah.
evolving planet, I guess. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's such a fantastic target for amateur astronomers. Even those with the most rudimentary equipment, even with small telescopes, you can see details from Jupiter,
Sure.
and that's kind of one of the reasons that I think a lot of people, it'll be one of the first objects, provided it's available in the sky, it'll be one of the first objects people generally point a telescope at. And it's also one of the few planets that you can really easily see details on.
Right. Right. I think we talked about this a little bit too. The comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 impacts, and just that was mind blowing to me, because I had at that time I'm working for Meade Instruments, and I had at my home a 16-inch LX200, set up aimed at Jupiter. Of course, you could see all kinds of details in the disturbance from the impacts and stuff. But then I had in our inventory, we had a toy Tasco brand, 50 millimeter. I mean, literally plastic tube, not plastic lenses, but darn near. Okay. Just maybe single lens element and everything. And even through that telescope, I could see these impacts. Okay. So I was rest assured that anybody that was pointing their telescope to the sky was getting a real treat. And it also made me realize too that you can do astronomy with almost any piece of equipment that you got. It's not that better equipment, of course, is always nicer and better, but to experience the sky and to start down that path, that voyage of personal exploration, you start with whatever you have, so.
I mean, these days, it's one of the great things about astronomy these days is it's kind of never been easier to kind of, for example, try your hand at astrophotography of some kind.
Yes.
So, when I started planetary imaging, it was really only in the realms of the high, those with highly, a great deal of experience and an enormous amount of patience.
Yes, that's right. And a lot of skill. So.
But these days, cameras and software is all so affordable. It's never been easier to get involved with. And it's probably also one of the reasons that we now see so many more people around the world regularly imaging the planet. I mean, there must be easily 20 or 30 times as many people as there were 20 years ago.
True. The really great guys, though, and who always push the envelope, and you are truly one of these people. Maybe you could count them on just two hands. So there wasn't that many because it did take so much effort before and so much patience before. What does it take to become a Damian Peach level kind of planetary photographer today? What would you say if you were taking somebody to that level? Because that's my viewers right now. They're like going, "Gosh, does he do one shot images and stack them? Does he pull them from video?"
I would say the primary requirement is a serious case of obsessive compulsive disorder. To be honest, really, I think with anything that you really want to excel at doing, you need to really have a strong passion for, and it needs to go beyond just a kind of cursory interest. It's, I can remember in the early days, I mean, I literally, not a day went past where I didn't kind of spend some time doing something to do with, planetary observing or planetary imaging. I was just had this, this thirst to prove and know more and understand more. And when you have that within you, it just naturally, drives you forward to improve.
Right. Yes. I think maybe
and
perhaps you need to be born with that. I don't know that people just naturally have it, so or can say, I think I'm going to be really driven about this and just one day wake up and think that that's going to happen. But
I mean,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think anyone kind of, anyone sets out with the idea of kind of excelling in anything they do. It's just they'll start off in something and it will naturally happen as it should. I think, it's some people just don't have the time to commit to, that you need to commit to maybe excelling to a really high level in something, and they're happy in kind of doing what they do, and that in itself is great. It's I think everyone has their own kind of level of passion and interest in a subject.
It's true. I think it's important that you find it, so,
Yeah,
parents will often, expose their children to a variety of different things. Maybe some of them they don't particularly care for. Like
yeah,
some parents make their kids take piano lessons, for example, and they don't like it, because they're forced to do it or whatever.
yeah.
Um, Later, maybe much later in life, they develop a better appreciation for it. And I've heard kids actually blame their parents for not making them do things, or exposing them, to more stuff. So, and we talked about some of your early experiences with
Yeah,
you being very interested in space and astronomy, and
yeah.
spending a lot of time in the library reading all these books about it. Um, and then you getting your first telescope and starting to make images. So that's wonderful. When I first heard of you, I think I might have heard of you through Thierry Legault.
Yeah.
Thierry is another great planetary imager, very extremely patient, doesn't live in a particularly great spot. He told me that many times his seeing conditions are not that wonderful,
Yeah.
where he is, and I think he lives in Paris. And so, of course, being in a geographically better spot that is treated to more favorable seeing conditions does help quite a bit. But Thierry's big secret too is that he is obsessive compulsive, and he and he's shooting every chance he gets. So it's the experience, and I remember
And
working
that's
with him on some equipment too, and he was
mm,
extraordinarily picky about what he was using. So
yeah. I mean, it's patience really is a massive virtue when it comes to amateur astronomy. I
yes,
think, particularly when people are kind of, maybe they'll start taking images and they won't be happy with the results initially, and you start to realize that it's going to take a fair amount of time to kind of develop in what you're doing. And often many people live in locations where the weather is far from optimal, such as here in the UK, and you do have an enormous amount of patience at times, but also you need to be dedicated to kind of trying to catch those nights when the seeing conditions can be really, really steady. Because for
mm-hmm.
most locations, unless you're living in, somewhere like South Florida or, some other tropical location, for most places, nights very, very stable seeing where you can take detailed images of the planets are relatively rare. So, to catch those nights, you need to observe as frequently as possible.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So we had we kind of concentrated on ways that you could more or less inexpensively have a telescope always set up, and
Yeah,
if your name was Don Parker, that meant that you left your telescope exposed to the elements, and
yeah,
you remember how rusty and nasty looking his 16-inch Newtonian telescope was, because he's living in Florida. He's right on the ocean. Okay. So
yeah.
you have that salty air and all the rest of it. But he kept his optics clean, his cameras in working condition, and I guess the gears lubricated enough so that everything is still tracking and moving. But
It's
it was one of the most rusted mounts and corroded mounts that I'd seen ever.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Dawn 16, and it's, you look at it and you'd think, I mean, it's so far removed from kind of your typical glossy modern telescopes. Yet, as a telescope itself, it was superb for
Yes,
what he wanted to use it for.
that's right.
Optically, it was excellent. It tracked really well.
Tracked really well.
And it was, it was ideal for that purpose. And kind of in similarity with Don, I've kind of always been similar in that with my telescopes, they've always been kept outdoors. And with large aperture telescopes, I'm kind of the opinion that they really need to be kept outside permanently. Otherwise, they simply, generally for kind of thermal and cool down reasons, they generally won't work properly because large optics, there's no way you can take a large telescope from inside the house and outdoors and expect it to perform. Even if you leave it out for 2 hours, it's still not enough time to reach thermal equilibrium. And things like this are vitally important when it comes to really exploiting the potential of a telescope. Things like collimation, cooling, etc. All of these things need to have a meticulous attention paid to them.
Yes.
To get the telescope performing to its potential.
Right. And most people, probably over 70% of amateur astronomers don't do this. When I go to star parties, and I'm looking through people's telescopes, most of the telescopes are slightly out of collimation, they're traveling cross country with them. They're setting them up. They'll polar align them, but they don't take that extra unless they're also very attuned to how good this collimation should be. They'll just say that's good enough. And if you're just doing deep sky work, okay, maybe that's all right. Planetary work, though, it gets very demanding.
It does. I mean, compared to deep sky, with deep sky, you kind of the important considerations are somewhat different in that, things like the tracking of the mount, for example, is really important. Also with planetary imaging, it's kind of other issues that come into play. But perhaps above all, the singular most important issue when it comes to planetary imaging is the seeing.
Yes, right.
Without good seeing, you are, regardless of what telescope you're using, you will not get good images. It is crucial.
Mm-hmm. And when you're measuring seeing, Damien, how are you doing it? Are you just is it just by experience that what the sky's like? It's a 1 or 2 arcsec at night, or?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, it's quite funny. I mean, over the years, these days, here at home, I can almost walk outside into the garden, and without looking through the telescope, I'll kind of have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be like, from kind of how humid it feels, which direction the wind is blowing, etc. And there are all these things that come into play. And one of the good things is that these days you have really impressive kind of online forecasting tools for weather, and you can learn patterns where good seeing conditions are more likely to occur, and it's kind of during those periods that you kind of really need to make a concerted effort to observe.
So you almost start to learn about meteorology and
yeah, indeed, yeah,
right. So that's very.
The amount of time I've expended over the years on kind of looking at forecasting models and things like that. I probably know as much about meteorology as I do about astronomy.
Right. We have a couple of comments here. Let me questions maybe. I did ask Eduardo Simone did want to know if you're stacking individual images of your planetary shots, or you're pulling from video. As I recall, you shoot video. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So
frame grab.
the kind of cameras we use for planetary imaging shoot high-speed video. sequences. And generally what we'll do is stack a certain number of frames out of those video sequences into a final image.
Right. Gary Palmer, astrophotographer in the UK, is saying, hey guys, move away from the UK for better skies. So.
Yeah, that's wise advice. I mean,
maybe wise advice. Yes.
There are, I mean, particularly, I mean, the winter we've had here over the last over the last 4 or 5 months has been especially poor. And it's only really in the last week or so that we've actually had a nice kind of extended spell of dry weather. So yeah, it can be very frustrating at times.
And Jessica, looks like Moquin. She says she has a William Optics ZS61 Apo and a Skyguider Pro on the way. She's a complete beginner in astrophotography, no tracking or stacking experience, and have only used my Nikon D3500 DSLR for Milky Way and shots of some planets while attached to my 6-inch Newtonian Dobsonian telescope. Any targets you suggest for the upcoming galaxy season, since it's wide angle? I hope to find clear skies in time to shoot Orion before it disappears in the season from my Massachusetts sky. Any tips would be great. Yes, I understand it's going to be a lot of work learning to stack and process images, polar line, etc. But you've got to start somewhere. What advice would you give to a rank beginner?
I mean, when it comes to shooting galaxies, I mean, it's something I've actually done a fair bit of myself over the years, with various forays into deep sky. And obviously, I mean, we're coming into that period of the year where the big areas of kind of galaxy clusters in Virgo and Leo are well on view. Really, the best advice is starting with the brighter targets. So, I mean, you've got objects such as, Messier 51, the Whirlpool Galaxy. There are various bright galaxies such as M86, M87, etc. in Virgo, and starting with the brighter targets and see how you go. Because obviously, I mean, a 61 mil aperture is fairly small, so it's always good to start with brighter targets to begin with. But things like Messier 51, you'll easily be able to see the spiral structure with even with a small telescope like that. And modern cameras.
M33 maybe.
All the kind of and all the your typical brighter targets. And as you gain more experience, then you can try your hand at more challenging targets. And there's no shortage of there are no shortage of galaxies out there to try. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of our the people who was on Global Star Party last night, he loves to shoot Markarian's chain, and just the countless galaxies that are in that field. It's just makes your mind really kind of spin, thinking of the depths of the universe, the distances of things. So
the Virgo cluster is a particularly good target for smaller telescopes.
That's right. Well, good. There is another question here for My Moments of Zen, which is a cool handle here. What is your capture software of choice for shooting video with a designated astro camera?
Over the years, I've tried lots of different packages, but for planetary imaging, by far and away, the most popular piece of software is called Fire Capture, and that can be freely downloaded. Yeah, that can be freely downloaded online. So, if you do a Google search of Fire Capture, you'll find the website. And this software is by far and away the most popular software for operating planetary cameras.
Let's see if I can find it. Final Capture, correct?
Fire Capture.
Fire Capture, got it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and this piece of software has been around.
Right,
it's been around a fair few years now, and it has lots of useful features within it to use for planetary imaging in particular.
There we go. So there's the link. Now, the other thing I think is very, very important, aside from being driven to do the astrophotography and to get really excellent results, I think it requires having a mentor. And I know that you do this kind of thing. Maybe, Damien, maybe you can talk a little bit about, I know that you can go on your site, on your Patreon page, for example, and buy some sessions. But what's that experience like for your students?
Yeah, I mean, over the last few years, I've kind of added lots and lots of tutorial videos to the site covering all manner of different things. I mean, there are so many videos there, I can't even remember all the issues that I've covered. But generally, pretty much everything you can think of to do with planetary imaging, and also comet photography as well, which is something I've been quite heavily involved in over the last several years in particular. So yeah, I mean, it's a wide range of material, from advice for beginners to advanced processing workthroughs to show you how to capture and process data, things to consider when it comes to producing images, kind of advice on the pitfalls to avoid, software, cameras, telescopes, all manner of different things.
I see a video called A Modern Guide to Planetary Imaging.
Yeah.
That is on Star Arizona's website here in the United States. This is just, I guess, one of the many videos that you've made.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I've made 3 DVD tutorial videos, which are available, as I say, as hard copy DVDs. But during the last few years, I've kind of migrated everything, including tons and tons of new material, onto the online web page for tutorials at Patreon. It's a really good interface for reaching a global audience.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm going to put that link up too. So here it is. Oh wow, it's very reasonable. You got like a $3 a month membership.
I mean, it's I just
and the top membership's only $10 a month. How good of a deal is that?
Yeah. So I kind of I've always it's just kind of something I set up, maybe to make a little bit of to extra income on the side as just some kind of repayment for the work that goes into producing all of the material. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of proven popular over the last few years, and I've had, to be honest, nothing but kind of positive feedback on it. So yeah, it's been a rewarding thing to have done.
I tell you what, I'm going to join up on your top tier level right now. So as soon as we get off, I'm taking my credit card, and I'll be one of your students. So that's great.
I should also point out that I've also available on there. You've got data sets, real data sets that I've taken with various different telescopes over the years that you can actually practice the processing techniques on. So you can get an idea, maybe if you haven't got your own data, you can use the data that I've uploaded on posts to actually try your hand at processing and see how it goes.
Right. I think that's excellent. Having, there have been other kinds of photographers who've done that as well. I think I might have even mentioned it in the last show, but landscape photographer Ansel Adams gave all of his negatives to the University of Arizona so that students could make their own renditions of, moonrise over Hernandez, or moonrise over Half Dome, these kinds of things. Can you imagine having one of those, but that's what you have when you're getting a master astrophotographer sharing original data sets with you. So
yeah, I mean, one thing I'm kind of exploring as well at the moment is, because obviously, I mean, over the last 20 years or so, I've collected terabytes worth of data. So I'm kind of looking at the moment in a way to kind of maybe put it all into a central archive that will be accessible.
Yes.
So it would be, I think it would be something really, really nice to do for, for the community, and, it would give people access to data to, again, try their hand at processing.
I think so. And the other part is too, I mean, even years from now, decades from now, there may be some sort of discovery that someone makes in combination with a recent observation that they've made, so that they can go back and look at a nice, it's like a plate vault or something, where you go back and can see, an evolving long-term type of thing that might happen. Who knows what the storm cycles on Jupiter are really like? Are there any that happen over 100-year period, for example? That kind of.
I mean, I think we are kind of approaching a stage. Now we are beginning to see, longer term patterns in weather cycles on Jupiter. And right. John Rogers, the director of the Jupiter section of the British Astronomical Association, himself has, over the years, identified longer term patterns within the Jovian atmosphere based, primarily on the analysis of amateur images. So right. It's, when you think about it, it's pretty amazing that amateurs can still contribute quite significantly to the science and understanding of a planet like Jupiter. Absolutely, provided that you actually are, properly archiving your data and you're recording your observations. These kinds of things make a huge difference. And Don Parker was very much into looking at the long-term effects of, the global warming. He was. I know that he was very convinced that planet Earth is coming out of still coming out of an ice age, he made a compelling argument by comparing the weather on Mars, and with the sun as the driving force of all weather in the solar system, of course, So, and I think that the more that we occupy our solar system, not just, we tend to think, everything is all about us, and we're very centrally thinking, almost like in, ancient days of how we would look at the universe, as everything revolving around us. There is that tendency for us to still do that, I mean, how many people, you just might say to someone, gosh, that guy thinks the whole world revolves around him. Well, actually, that's a tendency that I guess all of us have to a degree. Astronomy helps you get out of that, okay? And to I would agree. I would agree with you there. It very much does expand your kind of mental horizon. Yes, yes, that's right. That's right. Well, Damien, I appreciate you spending another afternoon with us. Do you want to show some more of your images? Perhaps give us a tour of your your Patreon page, or things that you would steps that you might go through in working with students. I think that would be very interesting to this audience. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can do some of that. Let me just get it ready. And I've known this guy long enough, I can vouch for him. Okay. Definitely, I would sign up to get any kind of tutorial that you can from him if you are interested in making images that you'll be proud of. Not that Damien needs me to vouch for him. He stands on his own. Okay, so yeah, this is the site. So basically, it consists of a dashboard of posts that are ongoing, and you can look through the archive of all of the posts on Patreon over the course of the time it's been in existence. Mm-hmm. So here you have around present, I think around maybe 105 videos covering various things, and you've got a multitude of different data sets posted that you can download and process. So, and as I say, it consists of a whole manner of different material covering things from kind of the beginners will find useful, such as you can see here, this recent post on a question and answer session covering questions from those subscribed, which I've tried to directly answer. Here you can see a data set, for example. So this is a real data set of Saturn, mm-hmm. taken in August 2020. And you can download the data, the raw data, and process that yourself and have a go. See how you get on. Again, if we just move further down, there's another data set, this one being a color one, color data set for Jupiter. Again, you can download that and process. This is a recording of a recent hour-long talk with a Q&A, just covering high-resolution astroimaging in detail that I made recently for a society. Also a recent data set on the conjunction, mm-hmm. Which we had of Jupiter and Saturn.
Nice.
In December. Yeah, and we were quite fortunate actually. We had one clear evening here in the UK.
That's it.
Wow. I think it was on the evening of the 20th of December, so the day before closest.
Okay.
And I actually had a really good view of them both visually through the telescope in the same field of view on that evening. Oh yeah. And I was also able to show my son as well, so he got to see it as well.
Wow. So that's wonderful.
It was successful, and thank God we actually did have a clear evening to see it.
Yes.
But yeah, so as I go through, there's as I say, just lots of video and data sets. So I've done here something one of the patrons asked for fairly recently was a video covering imaging double stars, which is something I've done quite a few times over the years, and it can be good fun to try. So that's a video there that covers and tells you how to image binary stars with modern equipment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, as we go on, there are lots of different videos. A video here on getting started in astrophotography. This is a 1 hour long presentation.
And that's that 16-inch telescope we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. There's Don. There's Don with his immense 16-inch f6 Newtonian reflector, and kind of just seeing that picture kind of it makes me, I kind of remember the evenings that I spent there, and I got to view Mars with it. And I remember asking him about this picture, because this is quite a well-known photo of him with the telescope. Mm-hmm. And the question I had was, what on earth all of this stuff is that he has attached to the side of the telescope? and he looked at the photo, and his answer was simply, beats me.
Well,
and that really sums Don up perfectly.
Don always had people visiting, so the thing that he told all of his friends is, he says, Don Parker's house, we're always open, but we don't do mornings, so he had this constant stream of visiting astronomers come over and stay at his house and stuff. And I think a lot of them did do things to his telescope, at least the ones that he trusted. And, he was so giving that, somebody said, yeah, I'd like to try this or try that. He'd probably let them, so.
Yeah, he was.
As long as they didn't pull the mirror out or something, so.
He was, I can't, I've got nothing but good things to say about Don.
Yeah.
He was an amazing guy.
Yes.
He always had time for you, no matter what questions you had. And I remember when I was starting out, I'd be emailing questions constantly, and he'd always reply or have something funny to say, and he's such an entertaining guy.
Oh, very much so. That's right. We all miss him.
Yeah, so as I say, I mean that kind of pretty much covers what's on the tutorial site. And as I say, you could just scroll through all of the posts one by one, and yeah, like, there's lots and lots of material there to keep you busy for a very long time.
Long time.
And as time progresses, and I'm always adding new material as the weeks and months go on. Particularly, as the planetary seasons become more active, I always concentrate on adding stuff, particularly around those periods. So yeah, that's hopefully that's given you all an overview of
Yes.
what it
Right.
contains.
Right. Well, joining your Patreon was easy. I did it with 2 or 3 clicks. So, again, this is something I highly recommend. It's certainly cheaper than a car drive or a plane ticket or anything that you could do to work with Damien, and he will. He's made himself available, and that not every astronomer does that. So, so that's something that speaks to Damien's character. So, being willing to take you to the next level. So that's what it's all about. And yeah, I would like to make images like Damien does too. So one day we'll see. But well, that's wonderful. Damien, is there any parting words of wisdom, or is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? Or
Yeah, I think in terms of kind of, just start, I mean, really kind of advice for those starting out and just getting interested is just be patient. Don't expect to start taking, amazing stuff off the bat, because, I certainly didn't. It took a lot of work and effort to iron out all of the problems. And there are indeed lots of hurdles that you'll come up against when it comes to astrophotography. But it's never been easier to get involved. There are so many people around to support and ask for advice. And perhaps the biggest piece of advice I can give above all is enjoy it. Just enjoy what you're doing, and
right.
I think that's, but beyond anything, is the most important thing, is to enjoy yourself.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's what sustains people long term and nourishes them, and so I have seen people get very worked up, okay, over things not going right, or some problem that they get stuck in, and it becomes such a problem that they stop, and that's
I've encountered very similar things. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't kind of had nights like that myself in past years. Sure. Where you're just coming up against one issue after another. It can be trying at times, but as I say, patience really is a virtue when it comes to doing this kind of thing.
Right. Well, excellent. Well, Damien, thanks for coming back on with us to spend another afternoon of your valuable time. And I know our audience loves it, and they love your work, and we look forward to seeing more of your images. You mentioned that you have about a year of data that you're working with right now. Is that right?
Yeah, I've still got more data from last year that I'm still working through. So, I mean, Jupiter is starting to re-emerge in the dawn sky again. So, it'll be back to observing that again in a couple of months' time.
Right. Well, very good. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to the audience for tuning in. We have another global star party that's happening on Friday. It starts at 4 p.m. Central here, and that's being co-hosted by Gary Palmer of Gary Palmer Astronomy, and so that should be a lot of fun. And we have more surprises, more interesting guests coming up, and you'll see those in our calendar on explorescientific.com/live. So if you go there, you'll see us make updates to our calendar and additions as we're going along. Currently, right now, we're getting ready for the Northeast Astronomy Forum, which happens on April 10th. So there's a lot of video preparation stuff for that because it will again be a virtual event. You know, it's great to have that because it's teaching us all how to do even more outreach. We're now talking to a global audience instead of a room full of people, so which is nice. All right, so take care. Thank you again, Damien. Thanks very much, and I'll see you on Patreon. Okay, take care.
Take care.